Hello Loomers, it's Amanda and Monica are Loomy, and today we have a brand new design by our dear friend on Instagram. I know we say that a lot, but we do have a lot of wonderful friends on Instagram, and they have reached out to us to make tutorials for them, so that's why we're here today. This design is from Penni.Phelan.Rainbow.Loom. She has a really long username, so we'll just start with Penny and we'll give all the information regarding her down in the description box. But this bracelet is called Entwined Crossings, and you can kind of see just from the look of the bracelet how everything's kind of crossed, and it just kind of has a pathway look to us. So we came up with the name. We, Amanda and Monica, or Lumi, came up with the name, and she thought it was a great idea. So we just want to share this bracelet with you and show you how to make it. So for this design, you're going to need a 7-pin bar setup in this configuration. You're going to need 3 in the middle, 2 that drop down on the sides, and then on the end parts you're going to want them to be parallel with the ones in the middle. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 pin bars. This bracelet, this is a little bit of the silicone bands that I used in there. This is actually made on 2 full loom links, and as you can see, it well, let's do this one. It does not fit me, so if you want a full wrap, you do need to do probably about 2.5 or 2.25 loom links with the 7-pin bar configuration. I think probably if you were to use opaque bands like what we're going to be using today, it will probably stretch a little bit more and not be as tight. So even though this one is kind of really tight with these silicone Persian bands, I think we'll see how it looks when we're all done. So for today, I'm going to set this aside, and for today's tutorial, I'm going to be using all Rainbow Loom bands. Everything can be found on the Rainbow Loom web store. This band is the metallic silver, and we're going to be using the opaque pastels for this design. I'm still working in my brain how I want to place the bands, so if you see me kind of hesitate as I'm laying them, try to kind of want to see how they're all going to go together with this design. So this one actually has 2 borders, the one on top and the perimeter border that we're going to lay. I found that after I made this bracelet with this first border that we laid with the silicone bands or the dual layer Persians, to me it just looked a little bit messy, or too messy for me, I should say. Maybe not for you, but I like everything to be smooth, neat, and just look really nice and lay nice. I tried my best to get these bands to twist over and flip using the technique that Artisan Loom has mentioned in her tutorials about just making them look straighter, look neater, and having that really clean, polished look. But this design is really tight in here, and it was just kind of hard to do. So, but I think it's a great design. Penny did an amazing job putting this one together, so we are very happy to share it with you. So you will need 7 pin bar configuration, a Rainbow Loom hook, and you will need obviously rubber bands. So go ahead and get your supplies, come back, and we will start laying our bands. So we are going to start with our outside perimeter, And for that, I'm going to be using the metallic silver. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to just drop 2 bands right there. So when we go to close off the bracelet, the band's already there. We can just automatically pull those through. And what you're going to want to do, just lay side by side. And go up the loom. And just follow your loom all the way up. And you do want to push these bands down pretty far because this is a band heavy design. Just like we did with the all tied up bracelet, which I am wearing right here. Lots and lots of bands and crossing over, and makes it thick and obviously wide. You do want to use very good bands in this bracelet design. We only use Rainbow.Loom products. And if you want this bracelet to stay together and not break or snap, I would suggest to use Rainbow.Loom as well. So go ahead and just finish your border or your perimeter. And I will show you at the very top how to finish that off. So you should have your perimeter bands coming to the second to the very last pin bar on the left and the right side. And our next step as far as closing this off, take that over and we will just mirror it on the other side. Go down because our connecting points are going to be right in here. One over here and one over here. All right, that's what you should have for your perimeter. So we're going to lay our next colors, and they're going to be on the first and the second, the 6th and the 7th, and they are going to actually be these bands that you see underneath here. This one I used the Caribbean green, so that's what we're going to lay right now. And I'm actually going to be using, from, like I said, from Pastels, the coral color, the one that's so hard to separate with the pink. So we're gonna start laying from this pin to this pin. It's going to be a little bit of a stretch, all right, all the way up the loom. This is a very simple step. And you do want to push these down as you go, because obviously you can see there's lots of bands that are going to be on top of that. Just lay this all the way up the loom, and there is one little small step at the very end that I will show you that's just a little bit different when we close it off. So complete this, and I'll show you how to finish it. So I have taken my bands all the way up to this last point. This is where our perimeter starts to go into the middle. We're just going to do it just a little bit different for this last step, and we're going to take this one here and just kind of make it a small closure. Same thing on this side. Not really a big deal, but it just kind of shortens that and closes that off right there. All right, let's move on to our next step. Our next step is going to be laying still diagonal bands, but going the opposite way. And I still did use on the inside, it is still the Caribbean green. But for today's tutorial, I'm actually going to switch over and I'm going to use the light mint green from the pastels. So, and this is a little bit different for me. I decided to use the black backdrop, and just because these colors I thought would show up a little bit more as opposed to a white backdrop. So that's why I'm doing things just a little bit different, just so the colors will show up a little bit. So the first step is just going to be a little bit different. We're going to take this band from the first to the second, from the outside first into the inside second. Or you could say 6 or 7, whichever. And then we are going to go back to this very first pin and stretch up. Very first pin and stretch up. It's very similar to the way that we close the top of the bracelet. And we're just going to have our diagonal stretches all the way up. And remember, we do want to keep those bands pushed down. And I like to have several in my hand just so I don't have to reach across the table and continue grabbing them. So you can do one side all at once or go back and forth. I'm the type of person that will go back and forth just because I like to be even on both sides. And that's just how my brain works. Alright, so that's pretty easy. We'll show you at the very top how to close it as well. So we've taken this all the way up the loom with our reverse diagonal bands, and then just to close it off, we will take it all the way to the top and just secure it just like that. And that's what your loom should look like so far. Alright, for our next section, we are going to be using these 2 pegs right here to begin with, and we are going to go from here to here, and we're going to do that all the way up the loom. And the colors that you'll see, they're actually still hidden underneath. And it's going to be this band right here, still the Caribbean green that's going this way. And I'm going to actually stick with the same pastel light mint green and use that, since the color is just a little bit hidden and I want to save my brighter colors for the top. So we're going to go from here to here and mirror on this side, here to here, all the way up the loom. You can do one side at a time, or you can go back and forth. Just like so, up the loom. So I'm actually going to finish this. You finish yours, and then we'll show you all the next step. So once you get to the top here, you're just going to take this extra pin that you have on this side and close it. Make that short close like we did before. Kind of similar to this, only we're going the opposite way. All right. Our next band placement is we've laid everything, the last 2 steps we've laid going this way. We're going to be going outwards. And for this step, I'm going to be using my pastel yellow. And we are going to come in from the 1, 2, 3rd pin, and the 3rd pin off of the right hand side. So these 2 that are here in the middle. We're going to do that short step, just like so there. Same on the other side, we're just mirroring that. And we're going to use the same pin to continue our stretching and go up the loom. I'll show you on this side. Just making those long stretches. All the way up the loom. It's a pretty easy bracelet. There's just a lot of bands, like I mentioned before. It's just kind of band heavy. Kind of push your bands down as you go. Very simple. Oops, I've dropped one there in the middle. That will be very valuable since I had to sort all of these. All right, finish yours and we'll meet back again. So just to finish this off at the top, you can see I've taken the yellow band and stretched it all the way to this very last pin. And we're just gonna do the same thing on this side. And then we will move on with our next band placement. So for our next band placement, we are going to be focusing here in the middle. That is actually going to be, you can see the dual layered brown or chocolate bands that I have here. I think they're just dual layer brown. And we're going to do like an upside down V. That's the ones that you can see that are obviously going down. And that's in that bracelet. I'm going to be using purple. You're going to start here where your yellow began as well. Now you can do this either way. You can go all the way up the loom one side, or you can go side by side, whichever you prefer. We're just gonna, in my opinion, just go up both sides at the same time so we can complete it at the end. And that's basically all you're gonna do for this step. All the way to the end of the loom. Push these down just a little bit. And work our way to the end of the loom. And then we'll show you what's next. What's next? What's next? All right, your loom should look like this, and we will move on to the next step. And all we're gonna do basically is do a V as well, only it's going to be right side up. And I think for this, I'm gonna be using the pink, the light pastel pink. I'm gonna go, sorry guys, and this very middle pin and work our way all the way up. Mash these down a little bit and work our way on a V. These bands are so deceiving sometimes. Sometimes these pink looks coral, sometimes they look pink, and until you actually, well, I've used them all. Give them side by side with the coral, it's kind of hard to tell. And I sorted these last night, and if I'm not mistaken, that one looks coral. No, there's a coral over there. So see what I mean? Yes, it's very deceiving. They're hard to decipher which one is which. So pink for me, and a V all the way up. And we will be placing cap bands here in a little while, so you do want to kind of go ahead and mash those down. All right, guys, meet me back. So now we have all of our bands placed, connecting each other. So now we need to place our capping bands, and then we still have one more step to go. For my cap bands, I'm going to actually be using the blue. Now typically, you all know, if you've seen our videos before, when we do cap bands, we like to do three loops in the middle. For this design, I've learned that it's probably best to do 2. On this one, I did 3, and it made it very tight, and it looks just a little bit not like the original design because it's so tight here in the middle, and it kind of separates it, and you can see those lines through there. So I would recommend just doing double cap bands instead of triple for this step. So we'll do 1, 2, and you guys know how to do this. I'm gonna apologize, I do have a little bit of a cold, allergies or something, and my throat is on fire, but if I sound a little hoarse, that's why. So I do apologize. So we are going to just continue this all the way with all the bands that are in the middle, or the pin bar in the middle, and just do 2. That's my recommendation. If you want to do 3 and get that effect a little bit more, go right ahead. Alright guys, so we have one last step that we need to complete, and that is going to be this inner border. And you can see how our original perimeter kind of goes on the outside, so we will be laying another border on top. Even though we do it on the same outside bands, the way that the bands shift when you take it off the loom, it ends up looking like this. So for this, I'm going to go back to my metallic silver, and we are just going to start laying, excuse me, over these cap bands right there. So make sure that you do have all of your cap bands, before you start, all the cap bands in the center pin bar, like we mentioned. And then now we're just going to lay another perimeter. Trying to remember. I'm thinking we may not end up needing that cap band when we start to loop. We may just end up pulling it off. So you're just going to follow right on top of the original perimeter and the other bands that we have looped. And you're just going to want to follow it all the way around your entire loom and close it off just like you did your original perimeter. Alright, so go ahead and finish this up, and then when we come back we will actually start the looping process. So once you have laid the outer perimeter, once again your loom should look like this. And down here at the bottom, we had originally laid a cap band for the middle pin bar. What I did when I laid the perimeter, I went ahead and took that one off because I realized that we really didn't need it, and laid the perimeter and then capped over top of that with the same color of the perimeter band. So you can leave the other cap band there if you like. You don't have to. It's going to get kind of thick and heavy when you're trying to loom. So I would just not put a middle cap band on there until you actually laid your outside perimeter, and then cap it there. So what we're going to do is turn the loom around, and our first looping process is going to actually be to loom this outside perimeter, the very last step that we laid. So we'll go in the cap band. Now just real quick, I know I originally told you just to lay double cap bands here, just so it's not so tight in the middle. And then on this one, this border cap band, I did triple cap this one because this one's just a little bit different, especially for the looping process. So we'll go in and we're just going to loom out that perimeter. Zoom in a little bit. There you go. And just make sure you're only grabbing the perimeter band to loom. And this portion of the bracelet will actually be like I showed you before, this part of the bracelet. I'll do a couple more. Make sure you're only grabbing the perimeter bands. That top band that we laid. And loop there. So go ahead and loop all the way up. Close it out at the top with the perimeter. And then we'll come back and show you the next step. So I've looped or loomed my outside perimeter, and yours is just gonna hopefully look like this. And then we are going to actually move on to the next step. So the next step is going to be, I'll zoom in again for y'all. We're gonna be looming the inside portion here where we laid our V's and our upside down V. So before, typically what you would want to do in standard looping, you'd want to go in and loom straight up and down. But what we're going to do is go into these cap bands and bring them kind of backwards for the first step. And then we will go back in here and loop out. All right. So go inside this cap band. It's going to be your first, second, and your third pin bar or peg up, and go into the cap band and return them down. You're going to want to loop in a downward position. Then we're going to go back in here, grab this purple band, this regular shaped V, and loop out. We're going to go up to the next cap band and do the same thing. And I can already see a difference just from doing a double cap band as opposed to a triple cap band in here as what I did on this bracelet. It looks not so tight and separated. All right, so back in this peg up to itself, back into that peg up to itself. Show you a couple more times. Out and over, out and over, back inside and up. And you're going to end up with a square looking shape on your loom as you go up the middle. And you might want to hold on to that cap band. With it only being a double cap band, it's going to be more likely to come off of a peg as opposed if it were a triple cap band. Alright, I think you guys have got that. Just show you again. If not, you can always back it up and rewash it. Pretty simple. Alright, so you finish yours on the loom and we'll meet up. So your loom should look like it has squares in the middle. Hopefully you've loomed it correctly. That's what it's going to look like. And then our next step is going to be going in on the third pin, third, fourth, and then our sixth pin. Sorry, can't count today. And we're going to go actually into the third pin up on both of these. And we're going to take and loop it back down to itself. This long stretchy band that you have right here, you're actually going to loop it back onto itself. Zoom in some for you. There we go. So my band is going to be yellow. I'm going to loop that down to there. Gets a little bit snug, just because it is kind of a tight stretch. But this part is fairly simple. You do want to carefully loom it, just because, like I said, it is a tight stretch. And hopefully you have used good quality bands for this design. We don't want them to snap on you. Once again, I'm sorry, I'm fighting a cold or allergies, and my throat is really on fire. A little bit hard to talk today. But you live in the Ohio Valley. It's notorious for allergies. It's one of the #1 worst cities to live in for allergies. A little bit of info there. So you can see what I've done. So just continue this path all the way up the loom, and then we'll come back. So at the top, you have these two that are on the same peg. Right here, you've got your long one, and then you have your short one. You're gonna do the long one just like normal, and then go in and just do the short one over to the side. Just to where it's a short one, even though you are on the same peg. Okay, so we have all of these looped back towards us. Keep running into a bag of bands up there. Move those out of the way. Okay, dokie. So our next step is going to be, we're going to be looping these bands that you see right here underneath. You have the short ones to begin with, and then you have the long ones. They're all going to be on the 3rd and the 5th pin. So go in, grab that first top band, which is going to be your short one, and loop it over. Do the same on this side. Short one, loop it over. And then my bands are a little bit out of order, so I'm just going to straighten that up a little bit. So we're going to go in, grab the long one, and go up. And here, we will grab the long one and go up. And you can see how these bands are kind of crossing over. Make sure okay. So we're going to go into the next pin up, up and over, up and over. Same process all the way up the loom. Just make sure you're going in and grabbing that bottom band and follow that path up the loom, and then you should end up there. You shouldn't have a short one for this one. It will be a long one. Okay? So finish yours and come back. So now our loom should look like this. This very last section of bands should be looped to that very, very top pin. And we are moving on. We're getting closer to the end. So we're going to go in our second pin and our second pin from the right. So these two pin bars that go up will be going into there. We're going to grab, you can see this green band, which is going to be the next in line, and we're going to loop it. Might have a little bit of a tight squeeze getting that out of there at first. Then you're just going to take it, loop it to itself. Grab that, take it, and loop it to itself. And follow all the way up. You know, now hindsight is always 20/20. I'm thinking maybe I should have done these two bands in a different color, but oh well. It's already done now. But we can always make more. So going in, grabbing that over to the very outside pin bar. And you know, this is a very simple bracelet to make. There's just a lot of steps and crossing over. So, and it's basically just looping it back to itself. I know some of the bigger pin bar designs are, you know, pulling stitches over each other and re-looping and other steps like that. But this is a wide bracelet, yes, but it is fairly easy to loom. All right, I'll let y'all finish on your own. Once again, at the top, after you have looped this long one right here, you're gonna have on the same pin bar, well, not the same pin bar, but it's going to attach itself to the same pin bar. You're going to have that short band. So just come in and loop it out. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I just like to make sure I show you guys how to do all that. All right, so hopefully you have all of these looped. I'll try not to shake the camera too much. All right, so we have one more step before we actually get to loop the perimeter. And if you're like some of us, Monica and I, once you get to that point on a tutorial on a bracelet and all you have left to do is loom the perimeter, we're just like, hey, we're done. Turn a tutorial off and we are moving on. So anyway, so you all do whatever you'd like, but just gonna show you the remaining remaining steps tonight. So we are going in the second pin and the sixth pin. First off, you're going to grab that short band right there. For me, it's that salmon color. You're going to have a lot of bands on that first pin bar, and we're going to loop it back to itself this way. So far we've had two steps where we've loomed up. This part we're going to loom back down towards us. And we're going to continue on this second pin bar. Go in, grab that salmon color band, and we're going to take it back to the same pin bar that we used on the short peg, the short band. Just like so. And then we will continue on with these bands and loop them down to themselves. A lot of crossing over, and that's another reason why we decided to call this bracelet Entwined Crossings. Just because there's so much going on and the paths are crossed and there's a lot of looping over and just kind of is entwined. So there is another wonderful bracelet out there by Dear Joe called Entwined Fishtail. So the name was a little bit, that first part of the name was a little bit inspired by that. So But I mean, if you just look at it, there's just so much crossing over, like I said, and entwining with each other. So that's where the name came from. Entwine crossings. So finish this up, and if you need help to finish the perimeter, you can come back. If not, stop here or after finishing this band, so loop your perimeter and you will be done. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have completed everything on our loom except the perimeter. So I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see what this looks like when it comes off the loom in the pastels. It's been a long time since I've just used, I don't want to say plain because they're not really plain, but just opaque bands for bracelets. Typically I'm using silks, limited edition, Persian, medieval. That's kind of typically what we gear ourselves to, but I'm very anxious to kind of get back to just the basics of Rainbow Loom with some beautiful pastels. So aside the fact of using the metallic silver, which is silicone and still kind of stretchy, I'm very excited about the pastel colors. So now all we have left to do is loop out the perimeter, and like I said before, if you know how to do this and want to just move on and not watch me anymore, I am totally okay with that because I get it. So we're just going to go in this middle, grab those bands that are on top, loop them out to themselves. This is the easiest part of looming a bracelet. Now here on the sides, you are going to have a lot of bands. And you're going to have to dig really deep in to get that very bottom band and pull it through all of these. So be patient, be gentle when you do so. Kind of don't pull straight up. I feel that that's has a tendency to kind of break the bands. Just kind of pull out and then up. Since when you have all those bands on there, or just kind of rock it back and forth, then move forward. Okay, I'm going to go over here. And Monica and I have broken many a band in the looping process, and also while pulling it off the loom. But even if that happens, there's always an easy fix. You can kind of thread a band through there on the back side and fix it, because you don't want to lose your entire creation after spending an hour or so making one of these big wide bracelets. So alright, I'm going to leave you, and when I come back, we will have this, well, no, I'll show you how to get it off the loom, but we will be working on getting it off the loom. So I will meet you back here, my peeps. Alright, 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 as Matthew McConaughey would say. Okay. So our perimeter is done. Here are the bands that we dropped the very beginning. I'm gonna go, actually beforehand, I'm gonna grab me a C-clip. Pardon me if you saw my face there. So sorry. And colored C-clips. I'm just gonna go with a clear one, because the colored C-clips are bold color, so, but I'm going to use one of the wide ones. Alright. Lay that there. Actually, let me turn this way. And you guys can see. So here's my drop bands. I'm going to go back in hook, that peg, pull those bands taut. Oops, I just have one. I need both of them. Where are they? Come on. Okay. There we go. I'm gonna go in and pull those double bands up. I'm gonna straighten them out a little bit on my hook. Grab my C-clip because I'm going to be using my hook to take this off the loom. Turn it around like so. Make sure it's secure. So we're going to take it off the loom. I'll come back and show you the finished product, but just beforehand, please, whatever you do, just don't rip it off the loom. I know you guys probably already know that, but you've worked hard on this project. It's a lot of bands, and just ripping it off, it's a risk of actually causing your bands to break. So we don't want that. So just go ahead and take yours off the loom very carefully. I just like to do mine with my hook. So you do it however you like to do it. Some people like to take their fingers, do it this way. I just feel that I can grab all the bands if I use my hook. So, and when we come back, I'll show you what it looks like. Alright guys, I have finished, and I've pulled this off of the loom, and I did have a little mishap. As careful as I was, a band snapped, so that's why I tell you, be very, very careful. So I had to improvise and go back in. I'm really ashamed to have to show you this, but right here, and try to fix it to where it broke. Actually, there was 3 bands that broke. So anyway, it happens to the best of us, but you try to fix it and move on. So that's what's going on right there. But anyway, I think that this is an amazing bracelet. I love the colors, how it turned out, and just to show you the difference in the bands. This was, both of these were made on 2 full loom lengths. And let's see, that helps. All right, let's pull that down a little bit more. Both of these were made on 2 full loom lengths. This one with just mainly opaque bands, minus the perimeter bands that we've used. This one was used with some 600 count bands, but you can see we did use the silicone 300 pack of the Persian white. There is some Caribbean green in the middle. It doesn't show up as well, I don't think, as the yellow shows up in here. I'm sure you all can see that, but just to let you know, the variances of the bands and the thickness of the band does make a big difference in your bracelet and the actual length. So I think this one would actually fit my wrist. Let me see. It's still a little bit tight. Still a little bit short, but I think I can make it work, stretch it out a little bit and make it work. Like I said in the beginning of the video, probably 2 full lengths and a quarter or half of another loom to get a full wrap for this bracelet, just because it's so tight on the inside, and you all can see that it's just really, really, really tight, and it just kind of shortens the width of, not the width, but the length of the bracelet. But I think it turned out great, minus my boo-boo here, so we'll just have to make another one to make it look even better, or I'll try to fix it a little bit better than that. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This is our Entwined Crossings bracelet designed by Penny on Instagram and Facebook, and I think it's a beautiful design. So I hope to see your creations on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Make sure you click on all the links down in the description box, and comment, like, and subscribe to our channel. As always, happy looming, and loom for a cause.